live from beautiful Palm Beach. And today, as you know, the president was in Saudi Arabia, and we will be covering that and the implications of that, and also the China deal, which is quite a breakthrough, once again, like the one with the UK, which is being minimized as much as possible, not only by the mainstream communist media, but also by the Rhino media, or the suck China's behind media, whichever we want to call that the group that tries to make tariffs as if they're the coming of Satan or something, and rather than a device meant to make an economy fair, because you cannot have free trade with unfair rules. No such. That's not free trade. That's dominated trade. So Pope Benedict now has been in office. It seems like Pope Leo has been in office now like forever, it seems. And I think there's a very important day coming up tomorrow, particularly for the Pope. And I say that because one of the objections that I had to Pope Francis was his actions that benefited communism. It seemed to me that he was is much too comfortable with socialism and communism than he should be for a Catholic pontiff, and particularly with the role that he gave China in the selection of Roman Catholic bishops and cardinals in China, which has led to the persecution of some of those people. During that period of time, you might remember, I tried to, not that he would listen to me, but I tried to remind the pontiff of Our Lady of Fatima. Well, tomorrow is a good time to remind everyone of it because it's the feast day of Our Lady of Fatima, May 13th. It was on May 13th, 1917, that the Virgin Mary appeared to three young, I guess they were shepherd children, Lucia dos Santos being the major. I think that was the last. I don't know what that was, but
this is the Our Lady of Fatima. What do they call it?
Gathering last year.
Shrine. It is the shrine in Portugal, the Fatima Shrine.
And was that? Well, there were two major days that you remember Fatima. One is tomorrow, the day of the first apparition, and the other is October 13th, which is the day of the last apparition. So they were on the 13th of every month from May to October 1917, which was while the Second World War was being fought. And the three shepherd children were Lucia dos Santos and her cousins Francesco and Jacinta Marto.
When is the feast of the Lady Fatima?
Well, today.
Okay, so
tomorrow.
These are pictures from, I believe it would be like the last one before this one. And wow, what a crowd.
Well, they gather both tomorrow, and then they gather again on the 13th of October.
That's incredible. And we were talking earlier about candles and how they sort of like bring out some of our humanity. And that just looked like, how 10,000, 20,000?
The Blessed Virgin Mary appeared as the Queen of the Most Holy Rosary and asked the children to continue praying the rosary daily. She also gave the children three prophecies known as the Secrets of Fatima. And on October 13, 1917, there was what they believe to be, and many of the people there, a miraculous event where thousands of people witnessed the sun dancing in the sky and casting off multicolored lights. And the apparitions led to the establishment of devotion to Mary's Immaculate Heart. And then in her last message that was held for a number of years, she said that Russia had to be consecrated again to God and to Jesus, condemning the horrors of communism and predicting the horrors of communism if something wasn't done about it. The 13th, by the way, is the feast day of Our Lady of Fatima. The one that's of critical moment now, which we'll spend some time on tomorrow, is the third secret of Fatima, which was revealed in 1960, and it was a revelation of the future, specifically concerning Russia and communism, and the world's response to it. And if people heed the message, then Russia will be converted, and if they don't, it won't. And of course, they didn't. And it also predicted the suffering of the Holy Father, which Pope John Paul II, or Saint John Paul II, I believe was the attempt to take his life. The core of the third secret is a call to prayer, penance, and devotion to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and First Saturday devotions. And it specifically mentions Russia and communism, and the danger that communism presented to not just to Christianity, but to the world, and to the condition of the world, and to the freedom of the world, and that we have free will, and that we have to organize to end it and to convert Russia. So tomorrow we'll go into more detail about it. But if you are a Catholic, tomorrow would be a good day to go to Mass, because they'll be celebrating the Mass for the feast day of Our Lady of Fatima, who, when I was a child, was of great significance in the Catholic Church.
And new Pope, baby.
And I'm sure this Pope, because he's roughly, a little younger than I am, but still that same era of Catholicism. I mean, one of the reasons why the old Mass troubles people is it always ends with a prayer for the conversion of Russia. I ended every Latin Mass with a prayer for the conversion of Russia because of the admonition of Our Lady of Fatima.
So it's grilled India.
Communism?
No. The whatever you anti-communism.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, there was no institution in the world that combats communism or fears communism or has fought communism or stood against communism than the Roman Catholic Church
or the Reagan administration.
Yeah, but institutionally, way back since before 1917. In fact, Leo the 13th began it when people refer to his encyclical Rerum Novarum. Yes, it talks about fairness to the worker, and but it condemns both excessive capitalism, and then it specifically condemns even more socialism and communism. So I am hoping that the selection of the name Leo for Leo the 13th is not just the social justice part of his life, which is beautiful and wonderful, but also the understanding that there is no social justice when there is no freedom, which is what Pope Leo the 13th wrote in the most famous encyclical probably in the history of the church. So we'll see. Tomorrow is the feast of Our Lady of Fatima, and we'll see if the Pope emphasizes that aspect of one of the most important apparitions, along with Lourdes, which took place years earlier in Spain, and that has more to do with the healing of the sick.
In France, Lourdes, France.
Oh, it's France. I'm sorry. Did I say Spain?
Yes, but they're very, it's right on the border.
Yes,
you can actually walk right across. I've been to Lourdes, and I've been washed.
It's near where the Spanish separatists are.
Yeah, and it's funny.
You got to be careful there. I mean,
back in the day, you could just hike across.
You got some people there that are pretty darn serious in that border area.
Yeah,
of Spain. The Pope's brother, Louis, I don't know if it's Louis or Louis Prevost. Now he's our kind of guy.
He's from Chicago. It's Louis from. Well, actually, I don't know that for sure.
So here's an article in the Post. he was asked if he would take back his tweet in which he referred to Nancy Pelosi as a drunk C, 2 dashes T. I wouldn't have posted it if I didn't kind of believe it, he said. He didn't seek forgiveness for it. He basically said it was well-deserved. And in his interview with Piers Morgan, which we have to see if we can get a copy of, all right? He is a self-professed Donald Trump fan and comes, he's 73, and he voted for Trump. And he says, I'm a MAGA type and I have my beliefs. He did not ascribe his beliefs to his brother, but he did speak of his brother in a very loving and beautiful way. And this is, of course, there are two brothers. You've seen probably both of them. This is the older brother. Then there's a middle brother who was the one who quite emphatically declared that the Pope is a White Sox fan. And then, of course, there's Robert, who was known as Rob, who used to say mass, play priest when he was a little boy, and I have confessed that I did too. So it's really quite.
Let's hear from the brother on Piers.
Careful about maybe reposting something like that, or do you stand proudly by your rather lively posting?
Well, I posted it, and I wouldn't have posted it if I didn't kind of believe it. However, I had no idea that what was coming this soon. And I can tell you, since then, I've been very quiet, biting my tongue at some of the stuff that is out there on social media, because I don't want to create waves that don't need to be there, because I'm a MAGA type, and I have my beliefs. I don't need to create heat for him. He's going to have enough to handle as it is, without the press going, the Pope's brother says this.
Well,
What a great guy. God, I want to meet that guy. I want to go to a ball game with him.
We're working on it.
All I can tell him is Cardinal Dolan will drink beer at a ball game with you too. It's nice to see that one of the most, along with Donald Trump, and then some of the bad guys, right? Putin, Xi, these are the most important people in the world, right? I mean, they're going to determine the fate of the world, these people. I guess I'm missing a few, but.
Well, if we go back to that Saudi investment conference.
Hard to get more powerful than Donald Trump when you probably are the best known person in the world. And you whatever the attempt by China to match us, it's still, without any doubt, the strongest military in the history of the world. And by far the biggest economy. We dominate China's economy.
Here's an interesting question. Who at this point is more famous worldwide, President Trump or Pope Leo?
Well, I would imagine right now, President Trump. Pope Leo could be as famous or more ultimately. Like when you think of, I would think of two popes in my lifetime that were enormously famous. Pope Pius XII was very famous because he was the Pope during some of the war and for a long period of time. But really, it was John the 23rd who brought about the Vatican Council, who became even more famous because he had just a tremendous charisma. And then it was very, very hard to think of a pope that was more popular than Pope John Paul II from Poland, who helped to win the Cold War. I mean, he was the first one that really traveled all over the world. Seemed to me he traveled 4 times a year. So he went to every corner of the world.
I love it when they travel.
So you would have to say who was more well-known during that period of time, Ronald Reagan or Pope John Paul II, between 1977 to 1990. Hard to say. And depending on how outgoing he is, he has the potential. He also has the potential of outlasting President Trump. He's not term limited.
Very long tenure potentially.
I mean, God willing. I mean, given his condition now, which of course isn't any prediction of what it will be 10 years from now, but the idea of his being there 20 years is not unheard of. I mean,
and we're talking about Trump right now.
No. Trump better just be there a few more years, and we'll have a revolution of some kind. I mean, gosh, it's almost a conservative prediction to say he's 69. That he'll be there until he's 85. That's a pretty long papacy. Like, it's almost like his namesake, Leo the 13th, who became one of the most famous popes. I mean, when they have a long tenure, they can have a big impact. And he seems like a person who has some, even though people might say he's somewhat moderate, he's moderate in a very, very difficult time. So between very, very angry extremes. So he's going to have a big impact. And I believe it'll be for the good. But I mean, who knows? But
and if we look back to Leo the 13th, the earliest born human to appear on film, we kind of see that the impact of like the medium with regard to how famous these popes can get. And I don't know what's on the frontier for us, but if he's got 20 years in him, who knows what?
Well, 20 years would take him to 89. But 89 isn't as old as 89 was 20 years ago. And 10 years from now, 89 might be a lot younger than it is right now.
Yes, sir.
So,
and they live well. A prayerful life is a good, healthy way to live. So some of those guys can get pretty old.
I think this is going to be a traveler.
Good.
I think he's going to be on that airplane.
You see the amount of Holy Spirit that gets injected into the areas that the Pope visits is just incredible.
I've been there too.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had it happen in New York a couple of times, but I happen to have been in Arizona when Pope John Paul II was in Arizona.
Oh yeah.
And it was unbelievable.
What did he do? Was it a big tour?
He said
big
mass.
speech?
Oh gosh almighty. He had half of the South there, half of the Southwest there.
Outside, inside?
Outside.
Oh, that's
of
probably
course with the
so
Hispanic Catholics who were going crazy over him, just going absolutely crazy over him.
Oh, that'd be fun.
He was also an actor. Remember?
It's like a big production too when they come into town.
He wasn't originally an actor.
Nice.
Sort of a local actor in Poland, but he had that dramatic ability. He was also imprisoned and quite a man. Pope Leo has taken up an issue where he can be enormously helpful, because we've got quite a brilliant man here who has the time to think through these things in a neutral way, and that is the danger of AI. We all know that AI is very, very useful and very, very dangerous. But most of us don't have the intellect, the knowledge, or the wisdom, frankly, and time to really quite understand how to get the best out of it and how to curb its dangers. I mean, in some cases, people want to stop it. That would be very foolish, and it's not going to happen. So you might as well not stop it. And I see an analogy between him and his namesake, Leo the 13th. Leo the 13th took over a church that was an aristocratic church. It was a church of the rich. And communism was coming along and communism was along. And Marx had already written Das Kapital and Engel, and the revolutions were going to take place. Communist revolutions were going to take place during his papacy. And his Rerum Novarum saved Europe to a very large extent from communism, because it gave them a way of dealing with the social injustices, as we did in the United States, ultimately, without having to resort to the extremes of socialism and communism. And although Pope Francis did seem to have a real fondness for socialism, which I do not understand, and a real hatred of American economic system, basically Pope Leo is the architect of the kind of economic system we have, which is a capitalist system, but with a very, very gigantic, some people think too big, social safety net. That social safety net comes about in our Western countries because of the Pope. who at that time would listen to him. It also helped us to contain the dangers of the industrial era when the machine took over for the man and the woman, reduced the number of jobs in that area, could have dehumanized us and gave us a real explanation of purpose for our humanity. Well, that's what's going to happen to the people who work with their minds. So the Industrial Revolution had the capacity of destroying the worth of the people who work with their hands, the machines, replacing it. And we made the transition and understood the dangers. Now the danger is that artificial intelligence can take over for any of us who do work with our minds. But the artificial intelligence is going to make its determinations based on algorithms, not based on a conscience, a soul, a history of humanity, love, emotion, belief in a supreme being. It's going to make it based on algorithms.
Well, I hope that it enables us to live a more prayerful lifestyle. It could potentially.
Well, it could. I mean, but we have to make certain that we don't lose our ability to read, our ability to reason.
It's already happening.
Our ability to write.
The young kids.
If reading is a question of morality. You have to insist that people learn how to read. It's as important to teach them how to read as it is to overcome malaria. Because if you can't read, you can't think for yourself.
Well, it's reading, but it's thinking too.
Well, that's what reading does. I mean, reading, thinking is not, it doesn't happen magically.
An idea generation as well. A lot of the creativity is being taken over by these AIs,
Yeah.
especially with young. And if you never flex that muscle, you're never going to develop
That's
it.
why reading and writing, we have under 30% of grade school kids in this
Now,
country
here's
can
the
read
other
properly.
Other side
We're
of
at
that.
a crisis. We're at a crisis point. I don't want to hear the other side of it.
Yeah, I was going to say there is no other side. of it.
No, here's
The other
thing.
side is the
They
same.
are
people.
reading and writing at record levels on the phone, right? But
No,
the thing is
they're
the
not.
communication
No.
is not. No,
They're not.
on
They're
the phone,
not.
Reading
typing
short.
and texting. Yeah, see, it's bad stuff.
There's
Yeah, that's
a
not reading.
there
It is
is
reading.
when I'm talking about reading, it's reading a 1,000-page book.
Exactly.
Even my generation, we
Now,
were not taught.
I
how
will
to,
tell you an analogy to music because I've always been a classical music lover. What I object to with a lot of modern music is it develops the habit of attention deficit disorder. You listen to a piece of music in 2 or 3 minutes. You're not used to sitting down for 45 minutes and listening to music. Now, if you sit down and you listen to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony from beginning to end, that's going to be a commitment of about an hour. But while you're doing that, your mind, if you spend even just a little time studying the music and the themes, your mind is going to be operating.
Yes.
You're going to be creating word pictures in your mind, and it's going to be creating emotions, and it's going to be creating feelings.
And that's what I call a prayerful experience.
Yeah, that's why when I became mayor, the first thing that I did was restore the requirement of arts education in all the public schools, because we did away with arts education.
Oh, just become like China.
If you don't teach arts to your children, you deprive them of the ability to abstract. And if they can't abstract, they can't think for themselves. And AI can take that away from us, or it can be used to enhance it. And I think the Pope is a very appropriate person to write about this from a moral point of view and give us some very, very good practical things we can do so that we keep our mind alive. Because if we can't keep our mind alive, religion's going to suffer.
Do you want to go to Pope Leo saying that?
Can we?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Per I giorni che lo hanno preceduto, dolorosa la perdita del Santo Padre Francesco, impegnativi per le responsabilità affrontate insieme. E al tempo
Well,
stesso
my
Well, I don't think we're going to
That was-
understand it in Italian or Latin.
promesso
Yeah.
We're not that advanced yet.
Yeah.
But he did make it clear that this is something that has to be looked at in great depth and from the point of view of morality, as well as just practicality. We need to consider society, human development, individual rights, and the defense of human dignity, justice, and labor. And he's very much correct that this has to become a subject of great thought, and we have to think of what we are going to construct to make sure that we retain one of, if not the most precious gift that we have, which is our ability to reason. It's what leads us to God. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. This is Rudy Giuliani back again. And I'm going to just show you, before we move on to another subject, probably the most famous holy picture of Our Lady of Fatima that I used to have on my wall. And there it is with the three little children. You know, Lucia died in the 21st century, Lucia de los Santos. And there's a movie in Portuguese, but with a beautiful, beautiful American translation called Our Lady of Fatima. I believe it was done in 2000, so it's quite modern. And it is said to be a rather accurate description of it. There was a more famous movie done back in the 1950s that was also quite beautiful, but probably at that point not quite as accurate because there was a lot of research they were able to do in that 50-year period. So I would recommend getting that. You can get it on YouTube. You can get both of them on YouTube. I don't know where else you can get them, but you can certainly get them on YouTube. So we know that right now the Republicans are debating a tax bill. They're also debating an entire, as Trump likes to say, the big, beautiful 3-point bill, which will fund the government, hopefully reduce spending. And they're hoping for about pretty close to $1 trillion worth of cuts over a 10-year period. We'll have to see if they can get there. They really need more than that, but that would be a good start toward dealing with our perennial deficit. And also getting these tax cuts regularized would really stabilize our economy because the last time they went into effect, our economy started to boom. And for all of the lies of the Democrats, these are tax cuts that by and large help the middle class. They're really geared to help working people who work, who pay all the taxes after all. I mean, if you don't work, you don't pay taxes. So if we have, there was a period of time where we were getting close to and maybe going over more people not paying taxes than taxes. So transfer payments to people not paying taxes don't really help. I mean, they do help in terms of social welfare, but they don't help within terms of making a fair tax structure. It's the problem with saying, oh, let's tax the rich even more. The rich pay almost all of our taxes. I mean, it's the top 1% pay something like 30% of the taxes. The top 10% pay something like 60 to 70% of the taxes. And the top 40% pay all the taxes. So, because a lot of people at the lower end get tax refunds that wipe out their taxes. And then there are all the people who aren't taxed, who don't reach the minimum to be taxed. Yet they're making, in some cases, due to the excessive transfer payments created by Biden, they're making more money than they would make if they were working. So this bill has to straighten that all out. So they're talking about like cutting Medicaid. And Stephen, you had a great, please, nobody wants to cut Medicaid. And nobody wants to cut money for people who are sick so that you have the money to take care of yourself. But you have to be an absolute blithering fool not to realize that there's a tremendous amount of fraud involved in Medicaid. Now, cutting fraud is not cutting anybody who's being treated for cancer, being treated for COVID, being treated for tuberculosis, being treated for anything. They're stealing it, a lot of it. There is a tremendous amount of Medicaid fraud. So if you're cutting fraud, you're helping people to maintain the integrity of the program. I don't know why Democrats want to mislead you that way. Now, would you explain the analogy you used? I thought it was a very, very good analogy.
Well, let's hope we can do
Steve.
it justice. But it's like if you're going to cut cancer out of the body, it's not harming the body to cut the cancer.
Yeah, it would be like saying if they're going to do a cancer operation on me, right? And I had a tumor.
Oh, you're cutting
it would be the Republicans want to cut people. The Republicans want to cut people. What terrible Republicans. They just want to cut poor people.
And we want to cut the cancer.
No, we want to cut out the cancer that's going to kill you.
Exactly.
That's what we want to do. So what we want to cut is the money that's being stolen, triple billed, quadruple billed, bill for people that don't exist. Excessive charges for things that should cost a third of what they charge. That has to be done. If not, eventually the program will die, and we'll die. So stop it. Stop putting your ridiculous political career ahead of the lives and the safety and the health of people. Medicaid needs to be cut in order to be honest, not in order to take care of people. It's taking care of people, but it's also creating a tremendous amount of theft. Right. So That's where that 900 billion to $1 trillion in cost cuts can take place. And we really owe Elon Musk, who, if he wasn't so wealthy, had probably been destroyed, for just attempting. I mean, all the things he came up with were absurd wastes of money. And Medicaid has maybe more of it than any. Basically, the tax cuts aim to put more money in the pockets of hardworking Americans, the ones who are bearing the burden of paying the taxes. That's the idea of it. And
we got no tax on tips and no tax on overtime.
well, they haven't passed that yet.
Well, that's what's proposed.
And but the standard deduction is going to, these are the things that help the middle class people. The standard deduction is going to be raised. The child care credit is going to be raised. This is money you just get. So when they say it doesn't help the middle class, like hell it doesn't. You raise the standard deduction. That's helping just about all the many people who aren't wealthy use the standard deduction. They don't use all the crazy deductions that exist, which have been simplified, but they still are crazy. They use the standard deduction. That's like putting money in their pocket. And the Democrats don't want to do it, and the Republicans do, which is why we've shifted. And the Republicans have become the party of the working people, and the Democrats have become the party of MS-13, right?
And I was going to say
the gangs.
I was going to say tax lawyers too, but
and they don't pay taxes. The Democrats want to bring them back from. They want to bring them back from El Salvador. They didn't rape enough people. Let me see if I can rape a few more people. Senator, whatever the hell his name is, Von Boobenboobel, says that I can come back and I can beat up my wife again. So we still have some things that can be done to this bill. Like, how about taxing universities on their endowment? Why is that tax-free for private universities? I don't get it. $50 billion endowment Harvard has just to train you to be a communist. I don't get it.
For the academics.
For the academics?
So we can be a proud nation.
So we can hate
academics.
Jews. So we can all be trained to hate Jewish people.
Yeah, see, that's where it loses me, honestly.
Right. They're also increasing the estate tax exemption, which they should get rid of the estate tax. The estate tax is getting taxed twice. All that money that's being taken out of your estate, you already pay taxes on. You know, you've already paid taxes all your life on it. Now it goes to your kids and they tax it again. So now they're going up to a $15 million exemption, which should spare just about anybody. And when you say 15 million, you think, oh my goodness, that's a lot. You know, I did this when I ran for president. I did a program on all of the farms that were going to be lost, because at that time, you know, if you had like $2, $3, $4, or $5 million, you were going to get taxed, and the government would take over half of it. Now, it's all in the farm.
You lose the farm.
It's the mother and father die. There are 5 kids. There's a $5 million farm. And you can't say $1 million for each kid, because you've got to give more than half of it so that $5 million farm, which the family already paid taxes on to build the $5 million farm, probably at about 40% a year, they're now going to take 50% of it. They're going to take everything away from you.
And what was the brilliant term?
That's what communists do.
What was the brilliant term that we came up with back in the day to call the tax? It was the death tax.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And that just, overall, people don't agree with the death tax.
Well, it's really extremely unfair. And when you see the big numbers, please realize that very often these are like, there are a lot of people that are millionaires that aren't. Like, their house, which they bought for $400,000, is now worth $1.5 million. Now, if you would have taxed that at 50%, and there are 4 kids that are going to inherit the house, they're going to end up at about $100,000 each. And the government's going to get the rest of it, even though their mother and father paid taxes all their life. That just isn't fair. And that's what really, under Biden, tax policy tipped over into socialism. And also, when you are pretty close to more people not paying taxes than paying taxes, you then have people working to support people who aren't working, which is the core injustice of communism and socialism that leads ultimately to violence, because people get tired of it. They say, "Oh, well, that's great, Marx. Everybody gets paid the same, except I work 60 hours a week, and the guy next door, runs around taking drugs all the time. Why should my family have to support him and his drug habit?" Well, so the Democrats are in favor of immigration, right? Including MS-13 murderers, Trans-Nicaragua rapists, and human traffickers, including that guy that went to El Salvador that beat the living daylights out of his girlfriend and was trafficking young people and got caught with it, and whose girlfriend, who now changes her mind, is on tape explaining how much he beat her up, right? So they want to bring him back so he can beat up a few more people. However, they don't want to allow the South Africans to come into America who are being tortured in South Africa because they're white. That's okay. I mean, you can torture white people.
Yeah, it's
I'm not touching this one.
no, it's quite
Well, don't touch it.
and that's what the media want. They want us to be afraid to talk about these things, but it's so obvious, it's so transparent. What they're doing,
Yeah,
they're
South
simply
African, look, there used to be a real equity with the South African government. It's become a completely gangster government. It's controlled by organized crime. It's controlled by drug dealers. A lot of fentanyl that goes to Mexico goes through South Africa. It's tied very closely to China. It's about as scandalous a government as you're going to find. It's taking tremendous advantage of black people and white people, but it's particularly trying to take advantage of black people. And it's a gangster government. It is not a democracy any longer.
right.
And that's just the truth. And if you don't like it, well, then go live on Mars.
Right. And it's it's so obvious. It's so obvious that they simply don't want these folks here because of their skin color. And let's be honest, they have been able to perpetuate this race baiting for so long in this country. I bet you a number of people, even watching this show, at least considered, maybe we shouldn't.
Well,
maybe these people aren't
these are
deserving,
people
right?
We're not going to put on welfare. They can farm for a living. They're very industrious, hardworking farmers. So we're not going to have to take tax money and give it to a rapist.
Right. The point being, as you said, Mayor, this is strictly a race issue, and it doesn't fit their narrative. And they're going to oppose it, and they're going to be vocal about it, and they're going to use it to try and divide us further, right? And claim that the Trump administration is only allowing white immigrants, and meanwhile he's kicking out all of these others, when this has nothing to do with skin color.
How about
as you
legitimate
said.
refugees?
Exactly. This is a legitimate case of political persecution, which is the basis for an individual to receive refugee status in the United States.
One of the most wanted men in the world is this man right here. Is that guy white or black? What would you say? He's white.
Yes, of course.
He's one of if you catch him, you get $10 million.
Ooh, I'm on it.
Where'd you see him? Where'd you get that picture, Mayor?
I got the picture from the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
So who is that man? That man is Ivan Archivaldo Guzman, the son of the founder of the Sinaloa cartel, El Chapo.
Jumbo.
We know who that is.
He is now considerably more active than his father. He is a mass murderer. He sits on top of one of the biggest organized crime groups in the world, probably bigger than even the mafia was in its heyday. And he is one of the people becoming a multi-billionaire based on the death of people from fentanyl, which can be a surprise death, meaning you think you're taking a prescription drug and it has fentanyl in it. Now, you may be getting prescription drug illegally, but you still think it's a prescription drug. I mean, one of the things about prescription drugs, even illegally, was if they came out of a pharmacy, yes, they could feed your addiction, but at least they weren't tampered with. Nowadays, they'll take the prescription drugs from the pharmacy and they'll boost it with fentanyl and make a mistake and you're dead. I mean, people have died of fentanyl and marijuana, meaning just sort of like weekend marijuana users. So where drug overdoses used to be basically confined to people who unfortunately had heavy, massive addictions like Hunter Biden, degenerate drug dealers. Now, just a casual drug dealer is just as likely to die if they slip the wrong, without even knowing it, they can put the wrong amount of fentanyl in. Apparently, during the negotiations with China, our secretary of the Treasury took out some powder, and he showed the Chinese how little fentanyl you need to kill somebody. And it isn't just amount. If you're not a chemist, you're not going to know the purity of it. So this amount of fentanyl should have some powder. This amount of fentanyl can be okay because it's been cut tremendously. That amount of fentanyl could kill you like that because it hasn't been. And fentanyl is not even the worst anymore, but it's still the most prolific.
Now, we talked about this a little bit before, but do you think that President Xi has any bit of the opioid wars of, the colonial
There's
period?
no doubt he's
time?
getting even. He thinks he's getting even for the opiate war. He's even said that.
Oh, I would.
This is part of his making war on us, as was COVID, which the Democrats, who are all paid off, a lot of them are paid off by him, like Biden, would never allow us to explain to you. The COVID killings was a way of making war on us. I mean, he ended up killing almost 1 million of us. That's more than he would kill in a war. And then he ended up killing Western Europeans, about 5 million. They all got killed because Chinese people were sent to their country and spread COVID.
And don't forget all the BS that the rest of
And he
us
did it
had
on
to deal
purpose
with.
because he closed down China. He closed down China and he encouraged them to travel. And then when people would put restrictions on travel, he would get all of his Chinese acolytes to attack them, like
Nancy Pelosi.
Like Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden and all of the media in America.
And about like umpteen million agents that we don't even know about operating.
So I would say that's another good reason why. I mean, I'm looking at this kid, Ivan Archivaldo Guzman, a $10 million bounty on his head. He could be in the United States. He could be in Mexico. Although they thought they were very close to catching him in Mexico. That'd be a big one if we could do that one. Also, how about this? Just to give you an idea of how terrible our immigration system was. Anthony Fabian Marin Latorre was caught at the border in Arizona on September 26, 2022, in the height of the Biden invasion, right? That was the height of the Biden invasion. He was released into the custody of ICE, and then he was released. What we used to call catch and release. May have happened 13, 14 million times. Nobody checked that he's wanted for multiple murders in Venezuela.
You can't figure it out with a kingpin.
And when Trump said that Maduro was sending his murderers here, how about Anthony Fabian Marin Latorre, who was allowed to patrol the United States looking for people to kill for 2 years?
Is this the Guzman? Is this El Chapo's son? No, different person.
This is Venezuelan now. This is just a plain good old multiple murderer, probably let out of prison by Maduro to come here and terrorize us. Now, we figured it out on May 2nd. And he is now in custody, and he's going to be sent back to Venezuela. Even though Maduro said, "I'll never take anybody back." That's until our president said to him, "Okay, and we're not going to buy. We're going to take the sanctions on Venezuela. We're going to double them." And he said, "Oh, I'll send my own planes for them."
That was rich.
So this guy, I'm pretty sure, you having done drug enforcement for 10 years, I can tell you exactly what happened. I can just read between the lines. What happened is somebody said, you remember Latorre that we sent there, the multiple murderer? That guy killed somebody right now. Trump will probably bomb us. So let's go claim him, get him back. And they probably know exactly where he is. So they located him, and they're taking him back to Venezuela because he's so dangerous. Everybody is playing watch out for Trump.
No kidding.
That's because he's the policeman. Maybe not even Trump. Maybe it's Holman. Maybe they're worried about Holman. You take a look at Holman and he scares you, right? Come on,
Right.
Tom is one of my good friends. I'm not.
Yeah,
making
we've
fun.
had him on the show
That's a
many
wonderful-
times.
That's a wonderful attribute in the job that he's in.
Right. Oh,
He scared the hell out of the baby mayor of Denver. If Tom Holman comes here to take any of the illegals, I'm going to stand at the gates of the city. First question, Mayor, where are the gates of Denver?
Well, that was his
Oh.
out. That was his
Oh.
out. That was his out.
That's Rome, jerko. They haven't had gates to American cities, and
Gates
ever.
to Denver.
Hey,
Oh my
jackass,
God.
half IQ, jackass. There are no gates. So far, Holman's taken about 5,000 of those people, and nobody's seen you around, you little coward. Can we set up a Fetterman fan club? Ted?
Yeah, well, boy, he sure.
John Fetterman for whatever.
Well, we could have told the senator what was going to happen if we had known his deal. But here's the thing, Mayor.
You're claiming he's mentally unfit.
Gee, gee,
He wasn't mentally unfit when he couldn't talk and he was running.
Right. Gee, he's
He's arguably more fit now, but
Now he's mentally unfit because he doesn't think multiple murderers should be kept here because they came in illegally.
and he likes Israel.
and he
so
supports our
I think that's his
He
big
likes
sin.
he supports our number one ally in the world. And I think another big sin is he wouldn't
And he doesn't like the
He wouldn't
Hamas terrorists and killers,
gratuitously attack Trump. That's the other one. So
Right.
it's not just
which
Israel.
is
I mean,
really a good idea because Trump can make it or break it for the state of Pennsylvania,
bingo,
as any president can.
bingo. And I think Senator Fetterman also realized.
Even the governor of Pennsylvania, who's quite a partisan, knows that. But I mean, this is ridiculous what they're doing to him.
Oh, but it's what they do. Well, we're not surprised. Come on.
He also
We're
made
not
the mistake of
surprised.
saying, "I'm
The
not a
Democrats are
progressive."
turning on John
I'm
Fetterman.
interested.
He's
to
not a
see-
progressive, which is, I guess,
I'm
if you-
interested
I don't
to see
like
the
that they-
makeup of his staff moving forward because a lot of them did jump ship, and I want to see maybe what if he staffs up with a whole bunch of Republicans.
Yeah, I don't think that's. I'd be shocked if that were the case.
this article in the,
Unless
in
he
the
was-
Wall
I know some
Street
people would be down
Journal.
to
I don't know James Kirchick, who is the author of Secret City, the hidden history of gay Washington.
What?
But he says that Fetterman does have a debilitating illness, sudden onset political moderation.
Reasonable. He's reasonable.
Well, suddenly
Get him outta here.
suddenly he's in office, and he to give him some credit, right? He's being what a true leader is supposed to do.
When he's representing
just-
the people of Pennsylvania,
Right,
right?
that's
Like,
a Trump's-
I
yeah.
think that's what he's supposed to do.
And I bet you there's some crossover between the Fetterman voter and a Trump voter.
Oh, you think?
Well, the
Look-
Democrats
like,
don't seem
look
to
at the guy.
Yeah. But
I think his emerging moderation is a sign of his mental health. That he's getting healthier and healthier.
Yeah,
Right.
he was bad at one point. He was.
Yeah, he had, and
like
doctors were
Steve.
telling us that, right? We had doctors on telling us from their observations. They were able to identify exactly what was going on. And it's not that we're knocking him for going through it or making fun of him for it. But if you want to be a United States senator, we
It's
we
not
expect
about you.
the
It's not about you.
exactly at
It's
that
about
point.
the
Yeah,
country.
because that's what they would, they'd pull that sappy card. Oh, you just don't want him running because you had a stroke, yada yada yada. Like Steven said, when it comes to public service, the mayor knows this more than anybody.
But they
It's no longer about
they
you.
were supporting him when he couldn't actually debate.
Right. Because they figured they had somebody they could just
But
totally
they wanted
control.
to vote. They didn't care whether he could think, not think.
Well,
talk, not talk.
they prefer he couldn't think, right?
And if one of these, the margins are so close that if one of them dies, they're probably going to stuff him and
Yeah.
send him back like
Feinstein,
yeah.
Weekend at
God rest
Bernie's.
her soul.
That's what they
Well,
call
with the
it.
ventriloquist.
Yeah.
My goodness, that's basically what they were doing with the poor senator from California at the end of her
What
life.
about Diane Feinstein?
They were
and
grabbing her
the
hand.
Chinese-
Oh,
Get
yeah.
in there, get that.
What about Diane
Dragging her
Feinstein
body
last
out there.
year?
Really?
The Chinese spy was taking her in every day.
Right.
Her 19-year Chinese spy companion
Just
was
a
taking her
nice
every-
young man.
Yeah.
I wonder how much information he got. She was on the intelligence committee. I knew Diane. I liked her a lot. I mean, she was the mayor of San Francisco. She was a pretty shitty mayor, but and I can judge mayors, believe me.
Yeah. If
But
somebody
she
can.
was a nice lady, but she was a silly lady. And there she did for 19 years. She was on the intelligence, and she was a big talker. I can imagine she gave that guy everything. I mean, that's how
That's
China
what you
got
want.
everything.
That's what you want on the intelligence.
They spied on us. They got everything by spying on us.
Right. Well, I mean, my goodness.
There he is driving. I wonder before they had. I wonder if he actually tape recorded her. You know, just put on his little phone. Okay, Diane, what happened? What happened in the skiff today?
Yeah. Between her and Eric Swalwell, Fang.
Well, Eric.
Fang.
Well, Eric, we know what Eric was doing.
Oh, Eric, tell me more about the codes.
Yeah, Eric, you're so handsome. Yeah, what's the code now, Eric?
Oh my goodness! And then we get
exactly. How do you put together that computer? That you want to go get? You wouldn't know, understand it. Why don't you go get me the documents?
yeah.
Oh, and
That
if
would
you
really help. You know what would help right now? Some documents. That would be great.
So I thought we heard Trump on. Is he going to stop off in Turkey?
It seems like it might be a possibility. I'd be curious on the logistics of such a visit.
I wonder if it'll be determined by how things go.
Sure.
What do you think?
I think so. And I'm getting, the president, we're negotiating with so many folks right now. I believe we wrapped up a fourth round of negotiations. And that, so in Turkey, there's a chance that Zelensky and Putin end up meeting, is what we're being told.
Imagine if they make friends.
Well, yeah. I have so much to say on that. It'll be interesting. What do you think, Mayor? What do you think the
I don't
president's
think it's going to
decision?
go well. I mean, I can't imagine they're so diametrically opposed, right? Putin took the land, right? Don't want to give any back. Zelensky, let's just talk politically now, right? Zelensky is finished politically if he gives back, if he lets him keep a substantial portion of that land. And not only that, it's almost immoral to let him keep a lot of that land. I mean, he just came and took it from you. And those people, I guarantee you that after what he did in 2014, those people don't want him anymore. I can tell you that because of Kharkiv, that when I first went to Ukraine, Kharkiv was solidly pro-Russian. If you when you had elections in Ukraine, you normally had a Ukrainian pro-Russian candidate and a Ukrainian pro-Western candidate, and they came out somewhere like Republicans and Democrats for a while, 48-48. And then the election was decided based on a little margin or maybe on cheating, right?
Right.
The main point being the country was fairly evenly split. Now, here's the thing, though, you have to understand. Way back when they first separated from the Soviets and developed their own constitution, part of which was written by two friends of mine, the McConnells, they voted, including the pro-Russian Ukrainians, to be free of Russia. I mean, the ones in Kharkiv and the ones in Donetsk and the ones in all the places that have been now taken. I'm not sure that's true of Crimea, but with the exception of Crimea, even Crimea voted slightly in favor of not being taken by the Russians. Very close, though. The rest of it was solidly, they like Russia. They favor having an alliance with Russia over the West, but they want to be their own country. Now, we go to the western part of Ukraine, solidly anti-Russian, to the point of hatred. Even if they're ethnically half Russian, like the mayor of Kyiv is half Russian, but 100% Ukrainian. He was also the heavyweight champion of the world, so I wouldn't argue with him. So it's a complex country, and you have to understand it. and I spent a lot of time there. And I don't have any illusions about Ukraine. And I don't about the Ukrainian people. It's a tragedy. These are remarkably good people. And for all of their poverty and the stealing that's done by their own government from them, they're well-educated people. And whether they're originally the pro-Western or the pro-Russian ones. But now they've become almost 80 to 90% pro-Western, anti-Russian, because of what Putin has been barbaric. They concentrate on what happened in Israel with Gaza, right? That was all collateral damage. The killing of the civilians was collateral damage. The last thing in the world the Israeli army wanted to do was kill civilians because they knew how it was being used against them, among other things. Also, they're humane people like we are. Because of their communist background, Putin doesn't give a damn how many people he kills. He's been killing people since he was a kid. The first thing I noted about Putin when I met him is he's a stone cold killer. First thing people ask me, well, what is he like? I said, well, he's very charming, but he's a stone cold killer. You can see it in his eyes, and you can see it in his lack of affect in dealing with death. Because first time I met him, I took him on a tour of the site at 9/11. And I took a lot of people on that tour, and I could tell who was affected by it and who wasn't. This guy said the right words, but he could have cared less. And then I met with him again after the Chechen thing. And once again, it was, how can I take advantage of this? So right now, I don't know how they resolve this. I have my own resolution that I would propose to them. And here's the way it goes, because you want to stop the killing, right? So they're both going to have to give. Zelensky can't get all the territory back. He's going to have to cede some of it to Russia, but he should get some of it back. And I'd say half and half wouldn't be bad. So he now controls, Putin does 20% of Ukraine. Suppose he ends up controlling 10, and he gives 10% back. And we have something to say about what 10%, because our interests, and it should be even in Russia's interests, are to make sure we have a secure supply of rare earth minerals. Now, 2/3 of the rare earth minerals are in Ukrainian-controlled territory right now, so that's good. But what's bad is 1/3 is in Russian-controlled territory. I think Russia should give us half that. They should give us half the territory and half the territory that has the minerals. Keep Crimea, which is going to be very hard for the Ukrainians. But Ukraine gets back to 90% of what they were. And I know this is not going to be very popular with my friends. But after all, I did work for Ronald Reagan, who's my hero. I think we should help guarantee the security of Ukraine with the Europeans. And we should make some very strict demands on what they put in. And if they do it, we should stand behind them. Because if we do, Putin won't do a damn thing. Putin would not have moved into the Ukraine if we said we were going to defend them. Now, I know there are a lot of arguments against doing that and getting involved in a war. But if you think Putin wants to take on NATO, you're out of your mind. Look at the problem he had with Ukraine. Can you imagine if he was facing even the screwed up NATO that we have? So Putin should be told, you're going to have 10%, you're going to have that, you're not going to have any more, and the rest of it is going to be secured by European troops and ultimately overseen by the United States, so that if they need help, they can get it. So stop killing people, Putin.
Right. And then President Trump consistently stresses that fact. You know, all this killing, all this unnecessary dying,
the guy doing most
thousands a
of the
day.
killing is Putin. Let's not bullshit, huh? The guy doing most of the killing is Putin.
Of course.
Now, I think Zelensky's got to move on to one of his billion-dollar things that he got corruptly. because this country is entitled to have an honest leader. And Zelensky is not that. And then all of the files of the Ukrainian government should be released. And let's see how many American politicians go to jail for all the money they've stolen from that place, as well as their own. We have participated with the Ukrainian oligarchs, who are mostly Democrats. Take a look at the contributors to the Clinton Library. Ukraine is the single biggest contributor to the Ukraine Library, to the Clinton Library. It is the Ukraine Library. Now, that doesn't make sense. It's not that rich a country. You're going to see a real parallel. You're going to pick up a couple of Republicans there, but it's going to be mostly Democrats. It's been a cash cow since Obama invested with Franklin Templeton. Just a little hint. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to cover a bunch of subjects that should be covered. And I may have you explain to people what's going on in the Diddy trial. I was embarrassed yesterday when I was on my good friend Greg Kelly. And he wanted to talk to me about the Diddy trial. And I said, who?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really say that. I pay no attention to I deliberately pay no attention to it.
Full disclosure, they had asked me before.
I don't pay attention on purpose.
Well, I told them that.
I pass it every day. I read, 3 or 4 newspapers, and I read things online, and I see Diddy. And
P. Diddy.
P. Diddy, whatever the hell
Can you
that
name
means.
one song of his?
He did this horrible thing and that horrible thing, or they say they're framing him, or I haven't the foggiest idea. All I know, he is a shitty singer. He has destroyed American attention deficit. And so have all of them. Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is a menace. Young girls spend all their time over Taylor Swift instead of reading.
If you're driving a car with the mayor, 95% chance you turn on that radio. He turns it off.
Or let's start you with a small little concerto, about 4 or 5 minutes, so you can start thinking with music, not zoning out. Zoning out makes you effing useless.
The mayor will not listen to
real music.
Radio. Music
elevates you. Your powers of reasoning develop. You know the connection between facility and math and facility and music is like 1 for 1. And instead, we feed these people what is desecrated crap for music. So that's why I don't listen to the Diddy trial. I mean, and it's one thing to do desecrated music, another thing to do what he's alleged to have done. But did he do it? I also
did he do it?
Did he do it? I don't know, because of the terrible thing that's happened with prosecutors. And I traced that back to James Cardinal Comey when he prosecuted Martha Stewart. Celebrity prosecutions. They prosecute celebrities for stuff they wouldn't prosecute. Like they say, nobody's above the law. But in some ways, that operates the other way.
Yes. And
famous people get prosecuted for things that other people wouldn't be prosecuted, because the prosecutor becomes famous. And boy, I was a prosecutor, and I abhor that. I hate that.
Well, and when you're that famous, you do naturally have some enemies just by virtue of people, deals that you've done, things like that.
Is Tenny Garagos, who is defending him, is that the relative
Mark?
of the Garagos? Mark,
I'm going to ask. I just thought when you said Garagos.
That, defended
Casey Anthony? Or Peterson?
No.
Mark Garagos.
Didn't he defend?
He had a few of those big cases.
OJ.
Oh, was he on the OJ team?
Yeah, he was like.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, Garagos was on the OJ team.
Wow.
And then wasn't he married?
I don't know if I remember.
Wasn't he married to one of the?
Yeah, he's got an interesting story. Mark Garagos, he's got his own firm. Notable clients include Winona Ryder, Michael Jackson, Roger Clinton.
Oh, not
Cameron Brown, Victor Willis.
Well, I guess not.
Chris Brown, Colin Kaepernick, Jussie Smollett. Oh my goodness.
Who was he married to? So he didn't represent OJ.
I don't believe so.
I don't.
He was on that team, but you're right. They had all those all-star lawyers on that team.
Who was he married to?
That's what I'm looking for. His Mark. So Mark Garagos, a lot of info on his legal career, not a lot of personal info.
By the way, he's still around.
Paulette Casabian Garagos.
Okay, so who was the one? Who was the one on the OJ team? Well, we're going to take a short break.
Kardashian.
Kardashian's husband,
Robert Kardashian.
Robert Kardashian,
Yeah, which is Kardashian too.
yeah,
right.
Yep. Okay, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. So since we're into soccer time and taking advantage of your patience, I'm going to read up on the Diddy trial. And instead of giving you like one of those stupid things that the reporters do who don't understand trials, I'm really going to read it and tell you what I think. I do have to tell you there is a bit of a prejudice here. The case is brought by my old office, the very best United States Attorney's Office in the country, U.S. attorneys for the Southern District of New York, and they do not lose cases.
One little fact that you might want to include is that in evidence are 1,000 bottles of baby oil that were used in what were referred to as freak-offs, which were these crazy Hollywood.
Yeah. Well, all right. I think, Mayor, are you going to read this because our audience is very far behind on this? So coming in with that.
Don't our audience is
You don't go to jail for body oil.
Well, yeah, but it's alleged. It's like it's part of the story of the different environments that he created at these parties.
Well, here's just the beginning of here's something more important than that. On Monday, Newark Liberty International Airport was manned by just one fully qualified person in the air traffic controller's office. Now, when did our friends go back to Newark, Ted?
Our friends Caroline and Carolyn went back last night, and I can report that they had a clear, their flight took off, they landed, I heard from them. Doesn't seem like they had any issues getting into Newark from West Palm Beach.
The air traffic controller and a trainee were the only ones signed up to operate every flight in and out of Newark Airport between 6:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m., despite 15 staffers being the standard requirement. This is ridiculous. I don't know what to do, but this is an emergency. Maybe the military, this was thought of, I was involved in that with Ted Olson, and maybe we should use some of the military air traffic controllers to substitute for a while. There is a large number of military air traffic controllers, and I think we have had a recruitment problem, but I don't think it's affected the air traffic controllers.
And I did think that Doge and SpaceX were actually going to do some consulting with their
you can't have it. One air traffic controller in the Newark. Newark.
Well, these are the lines that people were looking at.
Newark is, let me just think about it. I'm going to talk about just major airports now. Right to its north is Teterboro, which is probably one of the most crowded private airports in the country. Not too far away from that is LaGuardia Airport, which is probably one of the most crowded, purely domestic airport in the country. Just a little further away is John F. Kennedy Airport, which is like the fourth or fifth most crowded airport in the United States. which is next to Newark, which is like the 8th or 9th, which is and in the middle of that is LaGuardia, which is one of the most crowded domestic airports. Just a little bit further out, there's a smaller airport in Long Island called MacArthur Airport, and any number of private airports on Ritzy, Long Island, the rich part of Long Island. We go up to Westchester, there's Stewart Airport, and again, private airports dotting up and down. Now, is it the most crowded airspace in the country? Maybe. It would challenge, given the fact that Washington is more constricted, it may be that Washington is a little worse. Maybe. I think it's worse than LA, I think, but I may be wrong. There's a lot more space to go around at the other very crowded airports, Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, a lot more space, much bigger runways. LaGuardia, which is being remodeled now, still has a runway that's a joke, or runways that are a joke. Now, because nobody has the guts to take some of the water. Oh, because maybe some fish will die. I mean, you could expand that runway gigantic. You make it gigantic if you took some of the bay. Oh man, what are you saying? The bay? Take the bay. We may kill fish. Yeah, but we may kill people. Oh well, people. I left office and left behind a report to privatize the Port Authority and kick it the hell out of taking care of anything, because it's one crooked organization. The Port Authority runs Newark, it runs Kennedy, and it runs LaGuardia. It runs the bridges. It ran the World Trade Center. It built a crappy building in the World Trade Center. And it does everything crappy because it's a cash cow for the two governors. They can take money out of the airport that should be put there to modernize it and keep it safe and good and nice. And they can put it on projects and then get them reelected. And they can do it without the interference of the New Jersey or the New York legislature. It's been a sin, a monstrosity, a corrupt vehicle for years, and nobody has the guts to do anything about it. And anybody that gets elected governor is corrupted by it. They'll even run on, I'm going to reform it. And then when they get into office, they see all that money they can get for projects that they don't have to worry about the legislature. And they say, I like that. Well, I don't know. Maybe they should find another way to steal money in order to do unworthy projects, but they shouldn't take it away from the airports, because as Wilbur Ross demonstrated in the report he did for me, those airports can be unbelievably profitable. They make a tremendous amount of money and they're treated like they don't.
They charge you $5 for a cart at the New York airport.
I cannot remember. I'd have to dig out Wilbur's report. But if LaGuardia had been privatized for the 20 years leading up to when he did the report, nobody would have had to pay billions and billions of dollars for modernizing it. The airport would have paid for it. And the taxpayers wouldn't have paid for it. And that's one of the reasons why the budget of New York is $258 billion and the budget of Florida is $120 billion. And Florida has 4 million more people because it doesn't have anywhere near the corruption New York has. And the Port Authority is right. If you think New York is corrupt, people would say New Jersey's more corrupt. Well, I don't know which is, but you combine it both. So it's corruption squared. When you put New Jersey and New York together, man, what are you going to do? When the mafia used to put New Jersey and New York together, you got the Sopranos.
That's right. Well, Mayor, we have a lot of folks asking, is it safe to fly into Newark Liberty Airport? So
I wouldn't do it.
Let's hear from, this is United put out this from a captain
I wouldn't fly
yesterday.
Hi, I'm Captain Miles Morgan. I have been a United pilot for 30 years, and I am currently the managing director at our flight training center, which means I oversee all pilot training activities at United. I routinely get questions from family and friends about what's happening in the industry. Many of you may have similar questions, so I thought I would share some of the answers I give to them with all of you. Lately, there's been a lot of curiosity about the increase in delays and cancellations at Newark Airport. It is absolutely safe to fly. Our pilots are highly trained professionals. Here at our flight training center, All 17,000 United pilots complete intensive simulator training with pilot instructors and evaluators when they first join United, and every 9 months thereafter to maintain their certification and keep their skills sharp. We train for issues and have policies and procedures in place to manage through any loss of communication between our air traffic controllers and our pilots. There are several layers of safety protocols in place, including additional facilities that will provide radar services and a safe handoff to the tower facility in the event of an equipment outage. On the flight deck, we have advanced safety technology that allows pilots to see other aircraft around us. There are incredibly skilled teams at both United and the FAA looking after you and your flight. Thank you for choosing to fly with us, and I look forward to seeing you on board soon.
I hope I don't see you on a flight to Newark.
Is he related to Chuck Schumer? I haven't seen anybody lie as blatantly as that since the last press conference Chuck Schumer had.
Yeah.
Jesus, what a sellout you are, pilot.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
Now you're telling me it's safe to fly into one of the busiest
carefully.
airports.
He uses words carefully. He didn't.
And there's one air traffic controller.
Right.
There's supposed to be 15 and there's one. And that's safe. That means we don't need air traffic controllers, pilot. What a sellout you are.
Yeah.
That reminds me of TWA and Flight 800 and
Oh gosh.
how I had to get them thrown out of trying to
Why
take
is that?
advantage
Explain
of the
why.
poor people. Because they were giving out these
And TW 800, of course, was a flight that crashed.
TW 800 crashed outside of Kennedy Airport in Long Island. And
When you were
we got
mayor.
heavily, and I was the mayor at the time, and I was the only place within 200-300 miles that had divers. So the Coast Guard had abandoned New York. Bill Clinton was asleep or doing something in the White House. Remember, he used to do all kinds of different kinds of things in the White House that fortunately aren't done normally. So I had to send my police officers and firefighters out there. So we took over the operation, and we set up a family center right that night at Kennedy Airport, and then we maintained it for 2.5 months. And I got to know all the families, and my health and human services people took care of them, and it was actually great training for September 11, and we never knew that. But in the course of this, TWA finally came in after ignoring these people for 3 or 4 days. Clinton came in after 10 days after ignoring them and did a brilliant job of snowing them. And they gave out these forms to all of the families to help discover the bodies and identify the bodies. So you would think, they told them to bring in toothbrushes and clothes and other things, underwear and things from which you could take DNA. Well, that of course made sense. But then they gave them a questionnaire, and several of the family members, including a very famous New York judge, a great judge, and lawyers came in and said, "Mayor, this is outrageous. Look at the questionnaire. We're not even saying anything. We just want you to read the questionnaire." So I read the questionnaire. It said, family. All of a sudden, right down at the bottom, it says, is your relative suffering from any of the following diseases? Cancer, tuberculosis, shortness of breath.
It's real close to home. A lot of tears.
Like stupid thing. And I'm saying to myself, what does this have to, you don't, there could be somebody there who was suffering from cancer, but you're not going to discover the body based on that. Now, it took me a second to figure out what they were doing. Now, you take a second to figure out what they were doing. They were trying to reduce the liability, the bastards. They were trying to reduce the liability. So you put down your father, who was on that flight, was diagnosed with cancer. They're going to pay you a lot less because his potential lifespan is shorter. That's the way it's calculated. They were trying to let these people deprive themselves of a decent amount of money for whatever the damage done to them because of wrongful death. Well, I kicked them out. Made such a big deal out of it. The president of TWA was fired 4 weeks later and eventually went into bankruptcy. I mean, that is inhumane, indecent. That's what, I hate to tie it back to the beginning of the show, but that's what Pope Paul the 13th was talking about when he was talking about out of control capitalism. When you get monsters like that, capitalism is beautiful when exercised properly. And as Pope Leo points out, there is no such thing as beautiful socialism or communism exercise, probably, because it can't be. And let me note one other thing about the new Pope. He pointed out that he is not against free enterprise if it helps people out of poverty, because he's an American. Now, I want to show you something that's encouraging. Western Europe has a lot of useless countries. Useless allies because they don't pay their bills. Useless because a lot of their armies, when they come to help us in NATO, don't fight. So the president goes easy on them, not letting you know that. But when we put together NATO conglomerations of troops, one of the things that I was told often was how angry our troops were, that like the guys from France would stay back and take care of the medical things while they went and got shot at and got killed. Not so for Canada, not so for Australia, not so for England. Definitely so for France and some of the other countries. Plus, they don't pay their measly 2%. Well, I mean, Trump straightened that out. Now they want to make it 5%. And some of their governments are horribly left-wing. I mean, Fred Mertz, who used to be on I Love Lucy, is now the who's now the chancellor of Germany, and a little baby Macron, whose wife really runs France, who allegedly was taking cocaine from that little thing there with Fred Mertz right there with him, and the big tall guy was Fred Mertz, right? And then there's the one from Spain who who memorized his Das Kapital really, really well, and goes over to China to kiss you know what's backside.
Do you think that was cocaine though?
What? No, I don't think it was cocaine.
You don't think so?
No.
I don't either, Stephen.
Actually, if they took it, it might help them.
That's what I mean. They're working hard, so it's like I wouldn't.
They're working hard. Macron hasn't worked a day.
Oh
Nobody
my
in
God,
France works.
Macron,
they're doing
Macron would be the only guy in France.
Stuff, I
oh
guess.
my God,
30 hours a week, and then they want overtime. 2 months vacations. And Germany, you're of German background. You could always be proud of how industrious.
I was going to say they're known to be industrious.
They're not one of the laziest countries in Europe.
Oh, come on.
Absolutely, one of the least productive countries in Europe.
Boom.
And Fred Mertz wins because of the 22% vote for IDF, and he throws them out of the government because they're neo-Nazis. Meanwhile, he's got 800 people under indictment or in prison for saying critical things online.
Yeah.
They arrest him for saying critical things online. That's a democracy?
Yeah. Not even critical if you hurt someone's feeling.
Who's imitating the Nazis? Him. How about England, where they put a guy in jail because they found anti-Semitic literature in his house, therefore he hates Jews? That's a thought crime. A thought crime is a sure indication that you're a communist or Nazi government, an authoritarian, vicious dictator. That's England, our ally England, with Stormer Pormer, who came and kissed a ring the other day. But I want you to take a look at that map. You know what that map demonstrates? In each one of the countries, some of which have gone totally right, some of which have gone totally right, there are major right-wing groups like Germany. You see Germany there in the lighter blue, whereas Italy is in the darker blue. Italy has a conservative government. Austria has a conservative government. Hungary has a conservative government. And Poland has a conservative government. Okay? That's a pretty solid little lineup there, right? Germany has a conservative majority. The conservatives won the election. But Fred Mertz has put a government together with the socialist communists and thrown out the IDF because he says they're neo-Nazis, based on nothing, really, other than the same thing as they go after us, the Republican Party, for being neo-Nazis. France has an underlying conservative majority yet to be elected. The UK is, left-wing. But if you noticed, the last local elections, Our friend Nigel Farage won all of them. And they are hard right. So, and now that doesn't, Lithuania is, that's why it's surrounded. Lithuania, Bulgaria, Belgium, and Netherlands also have conservative governments. Latvia, Estonia, Finland, Sweden, and Norway don't, but Latvia and Estonia effectively could because they're in an alliance against Russia. Finland and Sweden have just joined NATO and have been threatened with nuclear attack by Medvedev on behalf of Putin. So I could imagine what they are. So this is what's happening. Trumpism is spreading. That's almost half of Europe. And that's supposed to be left wing. So let's see what happens in the next elections.
Right.
Last piece of news I'm going to repeat from the other night, that Alberta does, by a slight plurality, favor statehood with the United States, independent of Canada. Go take that, Carney. Best thing for Canada.
USA, USA.
And I would like Alberta, just Alberta, because they'd be Republicans. We took that whole big thing, they'd be Democrats. We don't need another 2 Democratic senators. My God, there'd be 2 more thieves in Washington. We can't afford that. We cannot afford that. So we'll be back tomorrow. We'll see what happens with the president's trip to the Middle East. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the Emirates and in Qatar. Not a lot of love between those 2 places. There's still bitterness over the almost war they had 2 years ago. And we've got to see if he's going to take off for Turkey to see if he can settle Ukraine. But good day, very big day for the United States and Saudi. Anytime we collect $650 billion, it's a good day, right?
Right.
And solidify our relationship with one of the richest countries in the world that with us can totally dominate the oil market and crush Russia if we want to, which may be necessary. So I'm going to thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to ask you tomorrow, if you're so inclined, maybe you want to get up and go to Mass for the feast day of Our Lady of Fatima, who warned us about the dangers of communism, which I hope this Pope, an American, remembers because the last one didn't. And I'm going to ask you also to pray for those wonderful people who are being misused so badly in Ukraine and people of Israel and the people of Iran who deserve to be free, which we'll talk about tomorrow because we have some news about that too, that it's not quite together yet. So tomorrow we'll be on at 7 o'clock on Lindell TV and X, and then we'll be here for America's Mayor Live. Again, for the 600 and almost 70th time, right?
Tomorrow will be 668.
668. We're getting there. Okay. God bless America. About Ariel. Tell me about yourself, Ariel. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common